Hey Flosstube, it's Kim, aka Spartan Stitcher on Instagram, and I am back again with another weekly cross-stitching update. Today is the 11th of January 2021. This is video number 103, and I worked on 6 full coverage pieces this week. All in the name of bingo in full coverage fanatics. So, let me show you what I worked on. First, I finished my second bingo block on a summer ball. Again, if you like this chart, go in the description below for the actual link to get it. I'm also used it for Pride and Prejudice in the bookshelf challenge. So since last video, I put in about 850 more stitches. So 28 count Monaco, 2/2 with fractionals and backstitching. There's the entire piece so far. And I just did more of the floor. And I don't know if you can see, you see all those white stitches in her dress? There's white, and then there's this really pale blue. And again, this is anchor floss, because it's charted an anchor. So her white dress, which is really strange because I'll show you the picture here. In the mock-up, it looks like she has a blue dress. Like, it's a light blue, but it looks more like a blue. But the only 2 colors in that dress are white and that pale blue. Like, it's just enough to show the shading or the movement in the skirt. So, interesting. So that's a total of 2,000 stitches on that one for January. Again, I need to do a page and a half this year for my goal. And next, I worked on Odin. This was not in the plan. I had to change my bingo plans. This is a Pattern Keeper compatible chart from Etsy. I started this piece, I think it was October 6th of last year. Let me look real quick. Odin, yes, October 6th. When it was my husband's first long duration flight, because that was the flight where he actually was airborne over a calendar day, so he didn't step foot on the ground on October 6th. And he had that next long duration flight that wasn't as long as was expected in December. And so now it's become like a little superstitious piece. Every time he goes on a long flight, I have to work on Odin, just because everything always turns out fine. Like, meaning he comes back, he doesn't divert, nothing bad happens. So now it's my long duration whip to work on. We'll talk more about superstitions in the Air Force story part. So my goal on Odin this year is only 1 page, and the pages are a lot smaller than a Haid or a Tilton page. So I'm going to be accomplishing more than my goal this year, I believe, with all the higher headquarters directed flights. So we'll talk about the flight in the Air Force portion, but I did work on it on Wednesday, and Wednesday and a little bit Thursday, because I decided, since I'm working on it, I'm gonna make it fit the bingo board. So I put it in instead of Friends Forever for something that flies, because there's ravens in it. I could have also used it for birds, but I was accomplishing 1 bingo line at a time. So 2010 stitches, all in black. Let me tighten this up. So the page was like right around, it was, let's see, 55, but I had more black than that done. So I just outlined where the black was and just started filling it in. So 2010 stitches, plus some of the rest of the black on the page is down here. So I believe that'll be all the black on page 2. So you'll see, you can see where the wings of his helm will be. So that bingo block was done. Next, I pulled out a fun piece, Sunday Delight. This was for a design with words, because all those containers have words on them. And I did my 2,000 stitches on this one, 2,010 stitches. Again, I have all the partial pages done on this one, so that's what it looks like, the whole thing. Get my parked threads out of the way. So there's the whole thing. And then, so I gridded the page. I took all the parked threads and stitched those out, so that's why you get a bunch of different colors. And then I was filling in down here on the table and the cherries. So there's going to be 3 cherries there. So there's 2,010 stitches. And that was a lot of fun to work on. Not really confetti, just fun, bright colors. And then I pulled out Friends Forever by Ann Stokes, aiming for 5 pages and 2 skinny partials on it. So now this went from 3 bingo squares to 2 bingo squares. And I got both of those done. 25 count Lugana. These are all, so all the Hades are on 25 count except Odin's on 28 easy count. So this is 25 count Lugana. There's where it is. Doing diagonal pages. So much black. So there's the skinny partial is like 11 stitches wide. And then the page next to it. So this black goes like all the way down and it comes over a bit. So there's a lot of black left. And I was getting so bored with it, I had to do some other colors. So there's 4,010 stitches for the Dragon's block. And then in the next bingo line, a design or designer that starts with F or C, I believe is the other letter. So I'll show you my bingo board when I'm done here. And then yesterday, kept going. Card Sharp by Omar Rayan. I'm using this one for the bird block and also outdoor activity because they're playing cards outside. So I got started on that. And yesterday I only put in 810 stitches. So I still have, you know, out of a total of 4,000. So I still have, what is that, 3,200 to do. So again, I took most of my parked threads. I still have one that I need to do more so I can anchor it later. So I took my parked threads and then just started working on the black. And I'm still got more to do down here before I start filling in colors. So that is Card Sharp. So my plans, I got one more piece to show you. My daily piece, Oh Baby by Gilgash Taylor. This is a retired Hade that I am cropping. Working on it every day, a little bit every day. And since last video, I have done just about 2,910 stitches for a total of 4,610 stitches for the month so far. I have not worked on it today, but after I do today's stitches, I will have enough to cover The Great Gatsby in the bookshelf challenge. So that would be my second book complete. So there we go. I'm doing both these pages at once, and you can see I've filled in a lot around the black and just kind of building out. So there we go. We'll keep seeing his face and neck fill in. And so after I finish The Great Gatsby, I'll try for Little Women. That's more than The Great Gatsby, so we'll see. With 10 stitches, it's almost 9,000 more stitches, which would be more than I need to do in a day. Like originally I said 335 10 stitches a day would see me a finish by the end of April. Well, if I want to try to get the third book done, I'd have to do more than that. However, the bookshelf challenge is kind of like by the numbers was, the by the numbers challenge was in 2018 and 2019. You can always go back and complete them after the month is over. So I haven't figured out yet if I'm going to increase my stitches per day or just finish Little Women in February. I could do either one. So those are the 6 pieces I worked on this week. Plans, again, daily on Oh Baby. I have 3,200 more 10 stitches to do on Card Sharp. Let me show you my bingo board. So I have this line complete and started this line here. So Card Sharp is for bird and outdoor activity. And then the only square I'll have left to do is mittens, hats, scarves, hats or sweaters. Or yeah, mittens, scarves, hats or sweaters. And that one will be Half-Blood Prince. So we can see if I can get to that this week. So Oh Baby, Card Sharp, Half-Blood Prince. And if I get those 2 bingo lines done, it'll be time to switch to non-full coverage and do my monthly rotation on Big Red Ship of Life. And we'll see what happens from there. It's another interesting week. Wouldn't you know it? So let's see. What other... That is all my stitching content. So if that's all you're here for, thank you for joining me, and we'll see you next week. A little bit of life, excuse me, life updates. It snowed in Louisiana last night. So currently Louisiana has more snow than we do here in North Dakota. And my friend who takes care of Spencer for me, she lost power. They got between like 2 to 3 inches of snow. It's very wet snow because of course it's warm down there. Yeah, so they're currently out of power. The horses did get turned out. I did post some pictures to my Instagram stories. But yeah, it's really weird that they have more snow than we do. We're actually supposed to hit, we're going to be above freezing today and about 10 to 16 degrees above freezing tomorrow and Wednesday. So the only snow we have is remnants of snow piles. So all that's gonna melt. And you can see I'm still wearing t-shirts. It's January in North Dakota. I should have like 2 layers on. When we go and run errands, like I went to the grocery store yesterday and I had my coat on, but I was sweating, so I really should have just like thrown on like a sweatshirt instead of my heavy, parka type jacket. It's craziness. This is really, really strange for North Dakota, but there is a chance that February could turn brutally cold, so we'll see what happens. I'm reading a really good book, and I want to see how it ends first before I recommend it to you guys. It's actually part of a series, so we'll see how it turns out. It's a fast read, so we'll see how it is. Let's see. Air Force stories. So, as I said, my husband had a long flight on this past week. I told you with all the intel about Iran potentially looking to avenge the death of Soleimani a year after the drone strike took him out. Last week, and I found this in the media. This is not something I heard from my husband or anybody locally. I found this in an article. New York Air Traffic Control received messages on Monday, so the last day that I filmed, that Wednesday a plane would be flying into the capital to avenge Soleimani. Obviously that didn't happen, but Wednesday we launched some jets here, and this was already pre-planned. This was not in response to the message. We launched jets here for the Higher Headquarters Directed, or HHD, mission to fly again over the Persian Gulf. My husband was on one of the primary jets. Again, they sent up spares, so they sent more jets than they needed. And unfortunately, he didn't get to go again. This was one that he actually wanted to go because of the mission, and because had he gone, it would have broken his record from October. That was 36.6 hours. This one, they were gone 37 to 37 and a half hours, depending on which plane they were on. So he would have broken a record. He didn't get to go. And the problem was just like at the end of December when he was on a pre-flight crew that helped start up the jets and get it ready for the main crew to take it on a long flight. They did the same thing where other air crews pre-flighted the jets and started them up. And then my husband's crew got on the jet, put their stuff away, and took off on time. He didn't realize until it was too late that the pre-flight crew did not leave something on the airplane that they absolutely needed to continue their mission. So it's not like the plane was broke, it's that they didn't have something they absolutely needed to continue into different regions of the globe. So he had to come back. But the other planes continued the mission, and they flew over the Persian Gulf on Thursday and then returned Thursday night. So what's also interesting is that the maintenance group here seems to be having some issues with their fleet management. You heard me talk in a previous video about the flying hour program and how you have to juggle, you have to fly so many sorties each month to meet your flying hours for the year. You need to train your air crews and manage the jets that fly down to depot for their program depot maintenance. You need to, there's a whole bunch of, different moving parts that go into the calculation as to your flying hour program. Well, so you have jets that fly down to depot about every 4 years for the B-52. And then they're there for like 4 months or so for their in-depth inspection. But then you also have phase inspections here on the base, which is a smaller, and it's based on flying hours. So after so many flying hours, I think for the F-15E it was every 200 flight hours. And our sorties on those are normally like an hour and a half. Obviously, it's more than that for the B-52. They fly longer than an hour and a half, a lot longer than an hour and a half. So I don't know what their duration is between phase inspections, but there's a phase 1 inspection, a phase 2 inspection, so different inspections they can do here on the base, and then every 4 years they fly to depot for a more in-depth inspection. So as you're figuring the flight schedule, or the flying schedule for each week, not only knowing how many sorties you're flying and knowing what jets are broke, what jets are going in inspection, what jets are going to be used for training, you have to look at the flying hours remaining on each airframe before they need those inspections. If you think about, if you think about it in terms of your car, and your car needs an oil change after so many miles, and once it reaches that point, pretend like you can't use it anymore. It needs that inspection. It's otherwise on the airplane you get a red X. You cannot fly until it gets to that inspection. So what's interesting is my husband found out after he came back that the jet he was on has 40 flight hours remaining before it's due its depot maintenance that's not scheduled until May. And the other jets flew 37 to 37 and a half hours. So if my husband's plane had gone and it returned, his plane would have had like 3 hours of flight time remaining on it before it was due for maintenance. And it's not scheduled to go to depot until May, which meant it would have been grounded until May, or they'd have to, rework the PDM schedule to get it into depot earlier, because it would take 3 hours to fly from here to Tinker in Oklahoma City. And we have things in the Air Force. I've talked about can jets before, where we cannibalize. Like, instead of having 5 jets broke for one part each, they just break one plane and they take parts off of it so that you have more planes that are able to fly. Those can jets are switched out every 30 days because we don't want what's called a hangar queen. So a jet that hasn't flown in 30 days or more and is just sitting in a hangar. So yeah, you cannot have a jet just sitting on the ramp or sitting in a hangar from January to May because of your inability to manage your fleet. So things like this drive me nuts because I'm a prior aircraft maintenance officer, and it'd be something that I would be paying attention to if I was still active duty working on the flight line. But yeah, I don't know what they're going to do with that airplane. Hopefully not schedule it for another long duration flight, because it doesn't have enough flight time on it unless it goes to depot early. So that was interesting. Let me show you some pictures. I'm going to clean my tablet screen off. So I was talking about superstitions, how I work on Odin every time my husband's on a long flight. Air crew are very superstitious too. My husband has a few superstitions that he abides by when he's going to fly. So one of them is not having any loose change in his pockets. And that's not just because he doesn't want to drop loose change in the airplane. His pockets have zippers, so he's not going to drop them. But every time that he has loose change in his flight suit, they end up ground aborting. So no more loose change in the flight suit. As he enters the airplane, it's always from the left side. So let me show you a picture of the B-52 and how they get on the airplane so you can understand. It's in the middle, it's in the fuselage. Okay, so it's in front of the front landing gear. And it's right in the middle. There's this hatch drops down. It has rungs on it like a ladder on the inside, so you can just climb up it like a ladder. And again, there's 2 stories. There's navigators that sit in the bottom and everybody else in the top. And I have a blueprint to show you for that. So he always enters from this side. They'll do a walk around on the airplane, and he'll never walk to that hatch from the right side of the airplane. Just something that he has determined. Every time he gets in from the right side, they ground abort or something happens. The other superstition that he has is that he doesn't eat any of his food that he's brought on the plane for the flight unless they have already taken off. So if they are working a red ball, like they start up the jet and there's a problem that maintenance is working before they can take off, absolutely cannot eat your food because that like jinxes you. So let me show you. When I tell you, okay, the air crew on the B-52 normally is 5. 2 pilots, 2 navigators, which are the offense, and the electronic warfare officer, which is the defense. This is how they're situated inside the B-52. So the hatch is right here. So you have the 2 navigators sitting side by side facing forward. And when they, if they have to punch out, if they have to eject from the airplane, they go down. There's an extra seat back here that's not an ejection seat for the instructor navigator. You have the pilots sitting side by side here looking out all the windows, and there's 2 windows that are also up as well, and a seat that's not an ejection seat for the instructor pilot. Back here, sitting backwards, is the electronic warfare officer and what used to be a seat for the gunner. The B-52 used to have a tail gun. It does not any longer. There is still a way for you to climb from the crew compartment through the airplane to where the gunner used to sit. You can also climb back there if you are carrying gravity, like, I don't know the right term, weapons that are released by gravity only. So you can verify that all of them have dropped, but they don't normally climb back there at all anymore, but they used to. So there used to be an ejection seat next to where my husband sits for the gunner. So now if they have an extra person, they have 6 ejection seats, but they have more than that for these long duration flights. And so you have all these people with their non-ejection seats. They carry extra parachutes on these long flights. Since they can't eject, for everyone in an ejection seat, there's a parachute built into the ejection seat. So for those that are not in an ejection seat, you have your own manual parachute and you jump out of the airplane. You're not forcefully ejected from the airplane. So just a cool little picture to show you the very small space that they have to sit in for many long hours. Their toilet, they have a tube to urinate in and a bucket to for salads if someone doesn't take enough Imodium and has to go, and that bucket is like right there where that person is sitting, like on the other side. So right there. And then there's one cot to lay in. So that's what it looks like for a long flight. Not pleasant. So, and I forgot I had this picture. Here's the snow in Louisiana. My friend who lives down there, she said this is as much snow as she's ever seen in her entire life. But she's not traveled very far. She's only stayed in the South. So she's never lived anywhere where there was snow regularly. So that is your Air Force story for the day. We'll see what this week brings. See my notes. Yep, that's all I have for you. I hope everybody has a good stitching week, and we'll see you next week. Bye, guys.